Yeah.
Okay, we're live here today. I'm so excited for this one to meet with Neil because she's just so cool, and I think she's got great things to share with any entrepreneur. I think your coaching is something that everyone needs, not just your target market of busy moms, right? It's so relevant. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, like how and why you started your business, and how you help people.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. So
Yeah.
fun to be here. So my name is Neil Williams. I am a certified master life and productivity coach. So I focus on my work with the too busy, overwhelmed entrepreneur, specifically mostly online entrepreneurs, and I help them work less and make more money. In a nutshell.
Right. Who doesn't want to do that, right?
I know, right? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd love to hear, I think your story is so interesting how, what you were doing before versus what you're doing now. Do you want to tell people a little bit about kind of your career path?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important because it is what's led me to be here where I am. So I was that typical high achieving, climb the corporate ladder girl. And I climbed all the way to the top, got to the top, and I was really miserable. I was working so much. I was a mom. I just didn't feel like I had the space to be the mom that I wanted to be. I didn't have the space to take care of myself in the way that I wanted to. And so I just decided there has to be a better way to do this. But everywhere I looked, the message that I got was, well, you have to work part-time, and then, which was fine. I was 30 hours would be ideal for me. But then everyone told me, then you have to make less money. And I'm like, well, that is ridiculous. I don't want to make less money. I just want to spend less hours making it. Right. So in the corporate world, I was like, okay, I'm going to actually figure this out. And that's when I hired my first coach and kind of got bitten by the coaching bug. And then that's why I went, got certified and all that. But it really was the coaching and my ability to be able to change my brain and my story about work and money and time and productivity and how to get all the things done that led me to be able to scale back my work week in the corporate world from that 50, 60 hours down to 40 and eventually down to 30.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, if I can do this in the corporate world, I can do this as a business too. Other people were looking at me, even in the corporate job I was in. And I remember one person coming to me and being like, are you on crack or something? I literally do not understand how you get all the things done that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, so fascinating, right? And I was just kind of taking it for granted, well, anybody can do this. But I realized no, it's just not something that it occurs to everyone as a possibility. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go teach other women how to do this because it's so empowering to see I just choose how many hours I want to work and I can go make money. And I did that in my side hustle. My commitment to myself was I'm not working more than 25 hours per week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I built that side hustle very quickly into multiple six figures. And really, it took me about 18 months to get to multiple six figures. And I just applied the same thing that I did in the corporate job to this. I was like, okay, I got 25 hours. That's it. I'm not using more hours to create more money. That will never, I'm not training my brain to believe that that's the case. And I think that's the big difference that I went into my business with is time doesn't create money. I do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do that in any number of hours that I want.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit later about the role that photography has played in building your business. But first, I want to hear, if you could give people, I mean, obviously the coaching is a process. They're not going to change everything in a 10-minute conversation, but what are some tips you could give people right now for being more productive, I guess, in their work? What's kind of the first steps or whatever that you offer?
Yeah. So let me give three things. I think the number one first thing that is the most obvious that people miss is making a conscious choice for how many hours that you're going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people just like take this for granted. Like it's just decided by somebody else. Like my boss tells me, or my clients tell me, or my favorite is those of us who like love our to-do list and we're like, we're just work until we get them done, as if the to-do list decides for us how many hours that is, right? So the very first thing that I would offer is to decide how many hours you're going to work first as the very first piece, and then fill in the things from your to-do list to be done in those number of hours. So that's the second tip that I would offer, is not scheduling and planning for to work on things, which is what I realized most people were doing. And think about that. Like when we plan to work on things, we have a whole bunch of things that are in process, but we have very few things that are actually done.
Right.
And so you want to think about, if you're planning, you want to plan for what you want. And what most people want is like, they want their to-do list done, right? So let's just plan for that to happen.
Yeah.
So when you're scheduling out your time, you decide your hours, like maybe it's 30 hours and you're like, I'm going to get these 3 things done. You're going to schedule them purposefully into those 3 hours so that they're done in those 30 hours, not like in process, not I'm going to work on them, none of that. It's just, this is what it's done. So that would be step number 2. So step number 1, decide the number of hours you're working. Step number 2, decide what you're going to complete, what you're going to get done in those hours. And then step number 3 is making sure that you're using your time for value creation. This is the other thing that really escaped me in the corporate world, which is, since I'm assuming we're talking mostly to business owners right now, right? I didn't understand what created money. I literally thought that money came to me just because like I showed up and I sat in an office for 10 hours a day. Like I just got a paycheck, right? This is not what creates money. What creates money is value. So when you're thinking about working consolidated amounts of time, but not making less money, that is not, I teach the opposite. At work less, make more money. You have to think about like the value that you're creating in those hours. Is that value revenue producing? And that's, you kind of want to evaluate how you're using your hours and make sure that it's effective in creating revenue. If it's not, then we just have the wrong activities, the wrong value producing activities in the hours.
Right. Yeah. I love this concept from a standpoint of figuring out how much to charge for your services, because if you come from, like for me, I came from graphic design, making, $35 an hour or whatever. But like you said, I could sit in the office all day and produce nothing and get paid. I mean, I don't know how long you'd last in that job if you were doing nothing, but from the standpoint of being a service provider, if I'm, I can do a job for someone that's super valuable, giving them a product that they can use to make money, and I can do it in 2 hours, but a new person is going to take them 20 hours. Like, why should I only charge for 2 hours? You should charge based on the value that you're giving to them. And the faster you can do it, the more profitable you'll be. So I love that, wrapping your brain around that concept, like moving away from charging by the hour to charging by the value you're providing to someone. That's super valuable as well for figuring out how much to charge.
Yeah.
That was something I had to change in my brain, because for the longest time I charged by the hour. And, I can create a flyer in 10 minutes for someone. It's going to take them 5 hours to do it themselves because they don't know how, or whatever, So it's better to just charge by the thing that you're providing for them. So
yeah, I think that's such a good point. And it is like the model that the corporate world is built on pretty much, right? It's like the trading of time for money. And it is one model of working and creating in the world and doing business in the world. I just don't happen to agree with it anymore because I think it's really disempowering, and I think it limits our creative and innovative ability. So when you decide you're trading results and value for money, guess what you're going to do? You're going to create a lot more value in the world, and you just make the world a better place than trading it for time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that time for money model comes from factory work, manual labor, like you're doing work that's based on your time. Yeah. Like actually doing something within that time that's, you know, and I've worked in places where we had to like account for every minute of our time, like in that
Yep.
kind of production.
Yep.
And so it makes sense in that type of business model, but for creative services, coaching, that kind of stuff, the value is not coming from the amount of time you spent.
That's right. Like none of your clients, Tanya, are like, oh my gosh, did you spend 80 hours editing my pictures? They're like, I don't care about that. What I care about is, did I get a beautiful set of photos back that I can use in my marketing?
Right.
That's it. That's the result we want, right?
Yeah. So they don't need to know. I mean, I do spend a lot of time from the start to finish. They don't need to know how much, you know, because I'm not charging them by the hour. So anyway.
You're charging them for the end product.
Yeah. So I love those tips. And so people know, Neil is my coach. And I am kind of a recovering like procrastinator and perfectionist and all of these things that kind of hold us back. And her coaching has helped me tremendously. So, but we first met when she needed photos for her business. You got a referral from another coach and contacted me. Is that a couple years ago? I guess
was at least 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you knew you wanted like the full branding package, but you weren't quite ready. So we did like a mini headshot session. And by the way, for anyone who's listening, if you're in the same boat, I do have some smaller packages to get you started. And actually, you're still using one of those photos for your podcast cover photo. It's like one of my favorite.
I know. I love that one.
Like empowered and authoritative and also approachable and nice. So yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
So, and then eventually we did do a full shoot, and I'll show people. I want to share my screen and show people how you're using them, because the photos have just become your brand, basically, right? It's just you, and I feel like you're the poster child for like my work story, like ideal client, right? Like
I love it. Oh, good.
Yeah, like if someone said, "Who's your ideal client?" I'm like, Neil Williams. Put your picture up.
Oh, good.
Because you're using them exactly how I envision people should use them in their business. So, but what, like, why did you want to hire a photographer for your business? You know, why did you think that was important?
Well, the very beginning, it was because I needed to, because I didn't have like photos, and I was starting to do some stuff within like the coaching industry, and people were asking me for like a bio and a headshot, and I'm like, I literally don't even have a headshot.
Right.
So I was like, at the beginning, and my business was very new when we did our very first photo shoot. And the other thing that I knew, that I was going to start a podcast too. So I knew that I needed like podcast art. I needed just a few little things to get going.
Right.
And so think about like the depth with which I used those like 5 shots.
Right. You use them over and over.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. And it was enough to get started, right?
Yep, it was enough to get started. And then I was like, okay, I want something more.
Right.
And that's when we did kind of like the full scope. And I will do that again this year, because moving to different office, like different things are changing in my business. Right. So we'll do it again this year, but I've used
fresh too.
Yeah. I've used the ones from last year, like you said, in every aspect of my business.
Right. Yeah. It's so awesome. So I have to tell a funny story. So the first time you contacted me, it was just your email, right? And I thought you were a man. Like, I don't know.
Of course. Yeah. Everyone thinks so.
You know? So, and I go to your website and you didn't have a headshot. I think you had a family picture or like a stock picture. Yeah. So when we got on the phone and you were a woman, I was like, oh. So I think like it's so important for us to have a picture of ourselves, right? Like on social media, don't have a picture of you and your spouse or your dog or your kids. Like have a picture of you so people can know. You know, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter that you're a man or a woman, but it does. Like if I'm a woman looking for a female coach, because I feel more comfortable with that, like knowing that you're a woman with an awesome name like Neil, I think it's just super important. So, but that is a story that really illustrates, you know, you need pictures of yourself.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And think about like how visual we are as humans. Yes. Like we make up as soon as you see a picture of something, your brain has created a story about it.
Yep.
Right. Which is why photography is so important and all of that in your business.
Yep. Yeah, we're super judgy as humans. We make meaning, we make things up without even knowing anything about the person. So we can kind of like knowing that we can manipulate that a little bit with
Absolutely.
your pictures, right? And
Yeah.
that's where that planning session that I offer comes in, to make sure we're kind of, I mean, we want to be true to who you are, but we want to make sure we're creating that image of who you want to communicate to your target market.
Yeah.
So,
And I have to say, like, having the planning session with you was so helpful to me because it came at just the right time because I'd already been thinking about like my ideal client. And like you said something to me in that planning session, you said, but your lifestyle is what your people want from you.
yes.
So it hadn't clicked for me in that way before, but I was like, you're absolutely right. So then we did a bunch of like lifestyle photos, like
Right.
me with my son making our smoothies, which
Mhm.
he hates, by the way, but I still make him do. And like the yoga and being with on the deck, like my husband and I sit on the deck and we have coffee or whatever. And so encapsulating like the full scope of my life, not
Right.
just me sitting in my office doing my coaching and teaching,
Yes.
was really important.
Right. Yeah. I just met with a new client yesterday and they were like, well, one of the partners was not really sold on why we need these photos. He was like, how are we going to look to, us sitting at a table with clients? How does that make us look different than it was a team of lawyers. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, like I just got off the elevator here and noticed this gorgeous art in this office. Like that right away is like, oh, this gives me a clue about what's important to this law firm,
Yeah.
like, and just all of those things, just showing who they are and their faces and the things that they do. It makes you different from other people. And just to show that and show the experience of what they might have when they come into that office can help people make a judgment before they call you.
Totally. It helps people already connect with you. Like they feel like they know you. And like if you feel more comfortable, if you feel like you kind of have an insight into somebody, than if they're
Right.
just like this person you've never met before.
Yeah. Actually, Tessa made a comment here right about this. She said, I 100% go to the internet to find pictures of people I'm going to work with, doctors, photographers, clients. Yeah. And we make judgments about them. If they look kind of off, we're going to be like, I don't know. So
Right.
let me actually share my screen here so people can see how you've used your photos. Let's see.
In all the different ways. Like,
Yeah. So first, your website, right? That's kind of the first place people tend to use their photos when they hire me. So we have this gorgeous one out on your porch.
I use that one a lot. I like that one.
Yeah, it's really casual and, you look friendly, someone I want to sit and chat with.
Right.
I think that's the only one on the homepage.
Yeah, the website's going to be redone this year, which is another reason why I need to book another session,
right?
Another photo session with you.
And then the podcast, this is one of those from the first session we did with you.
Yep.
That I love. And then here's another one in your gorgeous house, which you're moving. So that's another reason to do a new shoot.
Exactly.
And then reviews. I don't know if there's any. Oh yeah, we did that.
Yep.
It's fun to kind of create some kind of custom stock photos for your brand.
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to say. Like the fact that you did that was so helpful to me because my team who does like my Instagram and that kind of stuff, they were always asking me for stock photos. So, and I hadn't even thought to do that, but you had already pre-thought of that for me, which was like such a beautiful thing. So now I just have this collection of stock photos that we use all the time.
Yeah, as a designer, I just kind of know that. I'm like, oh, it would be nice to have some of these details. So here's your Instagram.
Yeah.
You can see it's a mix of, the professional photos we did, some stock photos, some that you've taken yourself, which I think is great. It's a great strategy. You don't necessarily need a professional photographer to take all your pictures.
Yeah.
But it's, we planned so well that you've had photos to use for kind of anything that you want to talk about in your social media. We did all of these.
Right.
This
Which
one.
is again why I think the planning session is so important. It's such an important piece of what you do with everybody. And I love that.
Right. And just knowing kind of the things you want to communicate, having some idea of what your marketing strategy is going to be in the future.
Yeah.
Can help. Even this little behind the scenes of getting your makeup done,
Yeah.
That wasn't even in our plan. I just shot it and you've been able to use it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I love, like I said, you're like poster child, perfect client. totally using them the way they're supposed to be used. So have you seen like, I guess, let me stop sharing this here. So since we had this photo shoot and you've been, posting the pictures, like how has that helped your business grow, or has it helped you attract the right kind of clients, or like what kind of impact or return on that investment have you seen?
Yeah, I wish I had like hard numbers to be able to say like I can see this direct
Mhm.
correlation.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
kind of
don't
hard
have
with
those
photos.
stats in front of me. But what I can say is like I really didn't even have an Instagram account before
Right.
because I really didn't have anything to like post. I just didn't
Yeah.
have anything to even use. So I have an Instagram account and I don't even know. We have like 600-700 followers or something,
Yeah.
but we did that in probably the last 6 months, really. So, I mean, my following has grown. There's so much reach on the podcast. Like we're at
Great.
30,000 plus downloads on the podcast. So that art that like I I needed that to be able
Right.
to, have. And I think partly like when you look at that picture, what was important to me about that is like, and we talked about this, that it's like I am giving a vision of like being powerful and approachable at the same time.
Yes.
And I think that is really important. I think that that image really speaks to what the podcast is about.
Mhm.
And so I think that's partly why, people like you see it and you're like, "Oh, what's this?" and you just
Right.
want to click on it.
Mhm.
So that the fact that I in my on my website, I'll have that redone and we'll do some new pictures, but I think it's all driving home like not just me as a coach, like just in the professional world, but like I'm a real human. Like I have all of these facets of my life and the business. I've created a business where I get to do my life around the business, like the
Yeah.
business doesn't take first priority. And
Right.
that's what I think people are drawn to, and seeing the visual representation of that is super powerful. I really
Exactly.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also one thing people don't think about, like when thinking about the cost and the investment
Mhm.
for getting photos, is the time saved for not having to search for the right stock photo. Like that's why I started Work Story, because as a designer, I would spend like, I remember one time I spent an entire day searching for the right stock photo for this one campaign. And I was like, that was 8 hours that you paid me to search for a photo. Like we could have just gone and taken the photo. In that time, like we could have
Right.
gotten the model, gone to
Yeah.
the location, taken the photo,
Yeah.
in that amount of time. So for you or your manager or whoever is doing your social media to just have all of these pictures
Yep.
already designed to work with your message, and like also like the amount of places and times that you use it. Like if you divided that, divided the price up by all of that usage, it's like
Right.
pennies per photo or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
totally worth it. It might be a big number to you at the, at the start, but looking at all of that time saved and just having those assets and be able to communicate your value is
Yeah.
super valuable.
Totally. Yeah. And I think like, yeah, when you're first thinking about it, it does seem like a big number, but then you think like it's an investment for like I know a lot of people who do this like once a quarter or
Right.
once
Yeah.
every 6 months. But
Yeah.
like, look, this
Fresh.
was almost a year ago that we did
Yeah.
this shoot, and like I'm still using all of that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, and that comes down, I think, to that planning. Like we planned to,
So well.
just shoot so many
Yeah.
like stories, I guess.
Yeah.
I've had clients who, went 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'd prefer you updated more often than that, but like I did my job so well, they didn't need to update for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So,
Seriously.
yeah, totally worth it. So, I mean, I know you found me through a referral, but
Mhm.
was there any like research you did in trying to choose a photographer aside from that, or like have
Nope.
you had frustrations in the past? Or I mean, you didn't really have pictures before, so
No, I didn't have like I was just like, who can I ask? And I just reached out to another coach that was in my area and I was like, who do you work with? I really don't spend like a ton of time like researching it, like
right.
me. I'm like, I
Yeah,
make a decision that I
right.
just go.
Yeah.
And so she was like, Tanya's fantastic. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go have her done. And then the headshots that you did were so great. I just knew like
Mhm.
I'll never even like look at another photographer. Like she'll just be my girl every time I want to do a new photography. I just go to you. So I don't even use any brain space thinking about anybody else.
Another reason you're my ideal client. You don't have to like wait 6 months. I'm still trying to decide, or
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know,
no,
like wishy-washy. You know, I love
no.
business owners that are just like, yep, I decide yes, let's do
And
it.
then I go, yeah,
Make sure move forward faster, you know?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was such a good decision. I mean, you made it easy for me to like just be like a lifetime client because like the planning that you did was so good. Like I've been able to use the pictures in so many different areas of my business. And like it's a no-brainer for me at this
Right.
point. There was no reason why I would go anywhere else.
Yeah. So as far as like the actual day of the photo shoot, I know like I listened to your podcast episode with Ellie, I think, and you talked
Oh,
about
yeah.
how you like found out that your husband got laid off.
Yeah.
Like that happened like the day before your photo shoot or something.
Yeah.
And I never would have known. Like you were just so cool and like, yep, it's the day of our photo shoot. Like you weren't like, I have to cancel or like my life is falling apart, you know, which I think, I mean, you're a coach and you've done a lot of coaching on yourself, but
Yeah.
how was the day of the photo shoot? Like, can you explain what made it
Yeah.
great or, you know, helpful, or what was the experience like for you?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I am a coach. So yes, I had a lot of things happening in my personal life right at that time, but I was like, it's totally fine. Everything's going to be fine. It's all totally fine.
Mhm.
Has no job. Not a problem. It's just going to go do this thing. Right. So I try to come at it for myself as like, how can I just have fun in this and just like enjoy the process? Because I
Right.
know a lot of people have so much drama about seeing themselves on video or seeing themselves in picture or like getting their picture taken and like all of that. So I did a lot of, I mean, I do my own self-coaching work to like get in the place where I just like drop into having fun. Like, how can I just have fun with this and laugh and enjoy the whole thing? But then you and your team just make it so easy. Like you will tell me like, okay, a real smile, Neil, or less smile, Neil, or like, you know, like you just give me great little prompts. And
Mhm.
it's not like, it's all from like, you're never like trying to like be judgmental in any way. You're just like trying to make the photos the best that they are. And you're seeing something I'm not seeing.
Mhm.
Right. So I just trust you. And I'm like, okay, she said to do this, or she said to
Right.
do this. And you add humor to it. It's not like it's like this super stuffy, like boring day. Like we're having fun doing it.
Yeah, I approach it with the same attitude, like, this is gonna be so fun,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna be relaxed. I feel like myself and my team, we're pretty casual. We
Totally.
do make
Yeah.
jokes and, try to, you know, if the person is self-conscious or whatever, like you said, I'm not judging you. I'm just kind of like, I get it. I totally get the self-consciousness. We're just gonna push through and, you know, you're amazing. Think about your clients and what you're offering to them and why we're doing this photo shoot.
Right.
And, you know, I felt like, I mean, you didn't come with any of those issues. Like you said, you just like, you showed up and we had a good time and we created some awesome photos. So
Yeah. But I think that's partly because I've done my own coaching work on myself and like I also just trust you. I just trust that you're going to create beautiful photos for me. So like I could show up as a mess and I feel like you'd still make it work. And so
right,
there's
right.
really not a lot of effort that's needed on my part.
Well, you were prepared. Like you followed our plan. You
Yep,
know,
I did.
you went shopping for some new clothes
Yep.
and trusted a stylist to help
Yep.
you with that. Like I loved that you came super prepared for that.
Yep.
Because there is some preparation involved to look our
Mhm.
best, right?
Yeah.
And we did have the hair and makeup
Yep.
on set, which is super convenient. Takes all the headache away.
Totally.
For me, we can just relax. So,
Yeah.
um,
And
yeah,
we were together all day long. Like that
yeah,
was
it was
it
a full
was a
day.
full day. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. But I
right.
still think it was super fun and like it obviously the pictures turned out amazing. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super fun. And I loved involving your husband and son and the dog
Yeah.
even, you know, like why not? Like those are all
Right.
part of your life. And
Right.
that's one reason I like to do the personal branding like at someone's home,
Yeah.
especially if they have a gorgeous home that fits their brand. It's just relaxing and fun. You know, we don't feel awkward out in public or something. You know, it's nice
Right.
to be able to do it at home and have access to your wardrobe and all of that stuff. So
Yeah. It was super fun for me to have my boys and my dog and like all of that there. They'd never had them photographed before in terms of like, anything having to do with my business. And
right.
I think they were probably more anxious than anyone.
Yeah.
They were like, are we done yet?
Yeah. Yeah. But it was fun. Like they were action shots, we're
Yes.
hiking and yeah,
Yes.
so it was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. What other questions? I guess, is there anything you would say to someone who's on the fence about making the investment in branding photography for their business?
Yeah, I think what I would say is, well, you know what I'm going to say. As a coach, what I would say is the only reason that you're on the fence is because you believe that you might not be able to make the money back. So this is the way that I approach any investment in my business. I just decide I'm going to make the money
Mhm.
no matter what.
Right.
So, and I go into the investment in that way. And I think that's why it makes it easy for me to just keep investing in things in my business because I just decide, like, well, I'm just going to make the money. I just know that I will. And this is just part of, for me, it's also like my own self concept and in terms of like my brand. And as I keep up leveling myself, I want my brand to keep pace. I want that to be the outward expression of how I'm still growing as a coach and a business owner and how it's important to me, like when my clients see my brand and see my photos, they see like somebody who has taken the time and the energy and is willing to invest
Mhm.
to show up in an exceptional way
Right.
and have an outward expression of that in terms of like the photography that they see.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's the same attitude I've gone into about hiring a coach.
Yeah.
Like it's expensive. How can I come up with this money? And I'm just going to make the money back. And I know it's going to help me take it to the next level.
Totally.
That's how I have approached it as well with education or coaching
Yeah.
or whatever. So when I have seen results from, especially your coaching, I love having you as my coach. So, so Tessa has a productivity question.
Oh, okay.
How do we
I can't see questions. Oh, okay.
How do we prioritize our to-do list as a work-at-home mom,
Yeah.
business owner, etc.?
Yeah. Such a great question. Okay. So first of all, what I would suggest is the steps that you use to do your scheduling. Number one, you decide the number of hours that you're going to work. So, and then number two, you decide what your free time is. So the reason that I like to do it in this order and not like let the work go first is because you want to remind yourself that the whole reason that you're doing business, I mean, there's a couple of reasons, but one of the reasons that you're doing it is so that, especially when you're a mom, like you can live the lifestyle that you want as a mom and still create money, still create value in the world. So if you do it in this way, what you're telling yourself is my free time, my life is more important to me. It's most important to me. So I'm going to carve out my free time first. And that looks like time to take the kids to the bus, time to pick them up from the bus, time to make dinner if you want to do that, time to take care of yourself, time to sleep.
Right.
All of those things, right? Carve that out first and then look at what is the nut that you want to use to get your work done. And in terms of like your list for your work, you want to think about what is most important to be completed this week. And here's what I want to offer. I see a lot of business owners who are like doing a lot of things, but you want to think about the purpose behind the things that you're doing in your hours. And then the number one purpose in a business is to create value, and that value is going to create money. So if you have activities on your list of things you want to do, is it driving value? Is it driving value in you creating it and offering it to the world, which is going to create money? Like, what do you need to be doing this week in order to up the output of your value? That's what I would prioritize first. So let me give you an example of this. Like I would way prioritize recording a podcast episode and getting that into the world than I would answering an email or answering Slack or any of that. Right. So we want to think about like, what are the highest value creation activities get put into the calendar first, and then go down the line to the least value producing activities go in there last. Does that help, Tessa? I don't know. I can't see if
We'll see if she.
I don't think it's very.
One thing you've taught me too is what of those items on the list that's not really value producing but has to get done, could you have someone else do?
Exactly.
Like the emails or
Yes.
and then there's the boundaries, because I used to work all hours of the night, weekends, like holidays, just like it was, I was obsessed with my work, or like I have to get this done, I have to get this done, someone needs this, and it was so hard for me to have boundaries or to prioritize like night with my husband, or just like relaxation for myself. And that I've made huge shifts and changes in that, like just giving myself time to not work, so because I scheduled those in first, right? Like I'm like, okay, all of these are in my calendar, like automatic, and then you put the work in
Yes.
where there's, time left.
Yeah.
And you have to decide what am I going to put into this time, because there's not a lot of time left after I'm living my life, right? So.
Yeah. And you just decide like, this is like my business. I'm building my business and I'm making money in this amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have the skill, like you just understand how you make money in your business, and you do that with the way that you think and the way that you show up in your hours, like there's never a number of hours that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what's so amazing about this, right? And if you find like your to-do list is this giant thing, that I want you to like stop and question, like if your business is super complicated, the reason that it is because you had a very complicated, busy brain that created it.
Right.
And so what you want to start doing is thinking about like, how can I make this the most simple, effective business possible?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll start to feel more calm. You'll start to feel more in control. Like you should be able to tell yourself like the 3 main categories of activities that you do in your business every week.
Right.
Like if you have 10, you want to stop and like question what's happening in this business. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. So yeah, and a lot of the work we're doing in coaching is working on that brain, right? Because
yes.
That's where we have the problem. So that's how you help us.
Yeah.
So where should people go to find out more information? I would point them to the podcast at least.
Yes.
It's just called Unbusy Your Life.
Yep.
Right. Listen to the podcast because she has so many amazing tips. And then neilwilliams.com. Is that your website?
Yep. www.neilwilliams.com. And then I'm on Instagram at neilwilliamscoach. They can connect with me there too.
I'm going to put that up as a comment and show it for people. Let's see.
Yeah.
There we go. And then, then Unbusy Your Life.
Yeah. The podcast this month. So just so you kind of know, of course, I already created my content calendar for the year, so I know exactly what's happening in the podcast, but this month is all about procrastination. So if that's something that you're struggling with, I really take a deep dive into all of the, into procrastination. Mm-hmm. And you probably will come away. I just got an email before I hopped onto this. Someone was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like there's a specific kind of procrastination that I struggle with. Right. Not like this generalized procrastination. So I really take a deep dive and help you with that. In May, we're talking about time and your time mindset. And June, it's going to be all about money. So if as business owners, I really feel like the next couple of months, really pivotal topics and teachings about your brain and how that is affecting how you're showing up in your business.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to be a guest talking about.
You're going to be a guest. I know. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So check it out, everybody, so you can hear Tanya's story.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Tessa says procrastination. Well, I'm going to go listen to that right after this is done. So yeah, super helpful. So, well, thanks for coming on today. This was
of course.
A great conversation. And of course, everyone, if you're ready to have photos for your brand, you can find us at workstorycreative.com. Yeah, and I'm actually going to be moving more into creating like a full brand package for you, which I'm rolling out soon. I'm redesigning my website too. So you can have help with, the logo, the website, the social media templates, and the photos and videos all together as one package, because that's something I've been seeing as a need for people and something I can do the whole thing. So I'm kind of rolling that out as a new service.
So fun.
Yeah. So, well, I'm going to sign off now if nobody else has any other questions, and go check out Neil's podcast for sure, and her website if you'd like more information about her coaching programs. And I'll see you guys later.
Bye, Tanya. Bye, everyone. Thank you.